Hear me out, guys. I think it may be time for Zenkai Level 2. Welcome back, guys. My name is DFree, and for today's video, we are talking about the terrible trend that has fallen on Zenkais once again for like the 5th time over the last couple of years. And I want to go ahead and just kind of update you guys on what I'm thinking, what my thought processes are when it comes to Zenkais. Be sure to join the discussion down below in the comments as well, and let me know what you guys think about some of the stuff we talk about in today's video. And let me just say, Zenkai Level 2 could be interesting, but I also think there are other avenues that they'll probably handle something alongside the same type of topic. So be sure to listen through because I'm going to talk about several things. So these are all the Zenkais in the game. Pretty much all of them are Zenkai 7 unless I got lazy or unless it's Trunks that just came out and I haven't completed the character. Now, here's the deal. We had a time period where Zenkais were the best characters in the game for a very long time. Starting from the release of the very first couple with Beerus and this red Goku and who's the third? Blue Broly. And we move on to Zenkais popping up once every few months. You get like Final Form Cooler. You get these characters, each one coming out. They're the best character in the game still. That was a fun time. And then we kind of explode with Zenkais. They become easier to get. I'm not going to talk so much about how expensive they were. If you're new, Zenkais used to cost, they were only summons, by the way. You couldn't get them from like exchanges at 21,000 CC. Yeah, so trust me, you were you know the funny thing, looking at the game now and the banners now and the power creep now, the climate of the game then was basically, it was interesting because it's almost like you could guarantee yourself a proverbial copy of like Ultra Rose if you were to get that Zenkai for like 21,000 CC, which in hindsight, you could go 100,000 CC and not get a copy of Rose. That may not have been the worst thing. Hot take, I know. Anyways, moving on from that, it did get cheaper. Characters did get better and more accessible. The very first one that was cheaper, I believe, was Trunks. In fact, I did a video on it, but there were several characters still that were popping up that were among the best in the game, like this guy, insane character, Android 18, absolutely disgusting character, and obviously we all know the one and only Golden Boy. Where is he at in here? Where is he at? You know what I'm looking for. I don't see him. He's like, okay, Super Saiyan 2 Red Teen Gohan, or Youth Gohan, really. This guy here, he was, I think he was the turning point. He was the turning point, okay? This guy was so good and for so long that they said, you know what? Okay, screw this. People keep complaining that Zenkais are the best characters in the game. People keep complaining that our 1% LFs that we're dropping, or not 1%, oh my god, I wish. Our 1% sparkings and our LFs aren't comparable to Zenkais, because that was the case. And so they decided, you know what? Screw this. We're going to do a full-on switch. We're going to power creep the hell out of the current existing Zenkais. We're going to raise the power bar for the new LFs and stuff that we drop and completely shift the entire power dynamic to where even low-star LF characters are now as good as these Zenkai 7 characters we're going to be putting out from here. So collectively, they weakened the power of Zenkais that followed suit after that. And some of them are decent, but they're not particularly powerful. You know, like characters like this guy. People were like, oh my god, his Zenkai is going to be terrifying, and he's better than he was, but he's not game-breaking. He didn't get to recapture that same climate like he did before for various reasons, but because the Zenkai wasn't anywhere near comparable to how powerful in relation to the rest of the game that Zenkais like Gohan's were. So they completely shifted the power dynamic. The new summonable characters are better, things like that, which, by the way, you can make an argument that's how it should have been anyway, right? These are characters, I think people need to understand something about Zenkais. These are characters that have already been released, that have, in most cases, already had their chance to shine, were relevant, especially when it's some character that like, you know, even some of them still haven't gotten a Zenkai, like Green Bardock. You know, Green Bardock, when he gets his eventually, because you know he will, he was already like a character that got his chance to shine. You may not have got to use him because maybe you saw it later after that, but characters like this Purple Broly, when he got his Zenkai, he was a freaking force, you know? So like these characters are characters like Vegito Blue that had their chance to shine, and Zenkais are their way of retouching these characters and making them usable again. Now, that meant for a long time prior to the entire dynamic shifting, like I mentioned a moment ago, that meant that they made these characters the best characters in the game, the most sought after characters in the game. But like I explained, that created a dynamic where players were literally saying, why should we summon for these new LFs with their terrible rates or these new characters when I can just skip this banner, summon on the Zenkai that's going to pop up soon, and have a way better character? That obviously is a problem, right? If you're trying to make money, that's obviously a problem, because like I said with the Rose thing a moment ago, Zenkais have an upper limit. This game has terrible pity systems throughout it, but one thing that's for sure is Zenkais had a pretty low bar in relation to upper limit. You're not going to go more than, like I said, at its worst, 20,000 CC. Nowadays, it's like 7,000 CC if you were to try that. So like Zenkais had an upper limit to get a top tier character. So they shifted the entire power dynamic. However, that put us in a state of the game where even the most recent Zenkais are nothing but basic characters, unless they're an LF, right? I think LF Super Saiyan Blue Evolution Vegeta, his Zenkai is really good. I like him a lot. Also, Rose was the one prior to him, I believe. I like Rose's a lot. I like Super Saiyan 4 Goku Zenkai a lot, but these are all LF characters, right? But like some of the characters like Trunks here, this guy is not, he's not like, he's usable, but he's nothing special, right? They basically got to a point where they made the new characters so strong that the new Zenkais are like several notches below them in relation to power. And you know the thing about that is, we're talking about new Zenkais. What does that mean for old Zenkais? It took a long time to get here. The older Zenkais, like this guy, that... God, this guy... You know what? I'm gonna be honest. I love this Gohan so much. I didn't like using this guy too much. When he got a Zenkai, I was like, oh, he could be good. I'm just like, I'd rather like Zenkai buff like purple Trunks. It was such a weird situation. So he was nothing special, but he's especially nothing special now with these super old abilities, because he got a Zenkai forever ago. He's bad. We have come full circle. So we have come full circle to the point where Zenkais now need Zenkais. Let that sink home for you. Red Goku, terrible. Purple Vegeta, terrible. Yellow Frieza, terrible. Red Trunks, terrible. All purple Turles, terrible. Purple Gohan, like I said, terrible. Even hype characters like this guy, not good. He's like a notch above terrible. Might as well call him terrible too. Like, okay, here's all the Zenkais. It's not a stretch to say 90 of these characters are bad. And then like, here's the deal. Bad doesn't mean not usable, because the entire premise of Zenkais now is that they are meant to be just substandard secondary options for your teams that are okay if you want to use them, whatever, and they're not meant to be meta breaking and stuff like that. And oftentimes they're at their absolute best as a bench buffer, providing their Zenkai ability for an actual 1% LF sparking to be stronger than they already are. That's really what Zenkais are for. They're your second or third resort. They are meant to be characters you basically don't even use. So with that type of knowledge, I can't in good faith say that anybody should summon on Zenkais, especially if you're not a Zenkai or a content creator. There's no value in it to me. You could just wait a couple weeks and get them for free, basically by exchanging. I digress on that topic, but coming full circle to the fact that these characters need Zenkais, like I said, what do they do? These characters have already received their buff. And there's only been a couple characters that have received more than one buff. I think that Purple Vegeta's received like 3 or 4 changes since the launch of the game through balance changes, which no longer actually exist, and then the Zenkai. Now, speaking of balance changes, I think they could bring back balance changes to touch up some of these characters again. I don't think they literally need to do a second level of Zenkai, because what would happen with the second level of Zenkai, just to give you guys some insight, is if it holds true to the norm, they would increase this. They would improve the stats. They would probably add at least one more extra unique ability onto these characters and just go from there, while also, again, improving what they already do, which, again, would be the best. For the record, that would be the best result, but I don't really want to, I don't think they'll put that much effort into these older characters that they've already revitalized at least once in the game. And the reality is that this is a gacha game. You are supposed to move on from these characters, okay? That is the point. You are supposed to move on from these characters. They're not supposed to be infinitely usable and never age out, never power creep. Very few games, especially with the PvP focus, can accomplish that are gacha games, for the record. And Dragon Ball Legends is not one of them. And so if they're not going to do Zenkai level 2, I would like to see them do balance changes. And there is also a subsection of this for characters that are LF characters that have also already received the platinum equipment. A character that I always kind of point out on this specific topic is a character like the Namek Goku that transforms. I don't see him on my list. Here he is. He already has had a platinum equipment. He's already had the platinum equipment awoken. He's kind of stuck unless they do balance changes or Zenkai level 2, or give a second platinum equip, or they balance change change his old platinum equip to make it different. There are various ways they could change these characters to revitalize them, and I think if they are going to do anything like that to a Zenkai character that's already had some sort of changes by being awoken to Zenkai, obviously, it would be for a character like this that is a hype character. Great art, by the way. Hype moment, transforming character, is an LF, most importantly, and can be used in that way. But I think, again, going forward, the expectation is super low for Zenkais until they find a way to do something like that, and until they decide that Zenkais can be more usable than they are currently. Very few of them are able to kind of transcend that limit, like I was saying, on how they want us to really use Zenkais and make it into the meta. Jiren, I think, hits just hard enough to be usable if you want to use him, but there are clearly better options for his teams. But again, you may not have the best of the best, and the best character you would want to put on his teams, for the record, on Powerful Opponent, would be a character like Ultra Rose. I don't even have Ultra Rose, so maybe you're not going to be able to have him either. Maybe you don't have him. And then again, same thing applies to several of these other characters on this list. But a lot of the characters are not even special, but there have been a few rare gems that I imagine these characters are like passion projects for the devs or something, because this guy had no reason being as good as he was at the time of the release. And he actually, I think, got a pretty substantial Zenkai. What was that, 6 months ago, something like that? It's been a while, and unfortunately they don't really do that anymore. So unless they're going to produce Zenkais at least of the quality and level of that guy, I don't really know where we're going unless it's an LF, right? So I leave it up to you guys. Do you think we need Zenkai level 2? Do you think they should just balance change, which I think is more, I think balance changes are more likely if between the two, but I also just think they won't do anything. For the record, I think that these characters are just dead. I think these are characters that if they've already received a Zenkai, they're just dead. They're not, the only value they'll have is their Zenkai ability to be used as bench fodder. I don't think they'll ever come back in a meaningful way unless some character pops up and these guys have like some effect that's like, oh, anti-like regen or something. Maybe you can see this guy in use a bit, but you know, I think these guys are dead and they're not going to come back. But I'm hopeful, and I think at the bare minimum, if anything, going forward, the discussion around Zenkais needs to change, right? We asked for this. They gave us this, like I explained. We said, okay, well, why should we even summon? Well, they fixed that problem. But I think they fixed it a little bit too much, because now power creep is in a whole different discussion. It's a whole different discussion other than just Zenkais. But now it's ridiculous. It's to the point where, again, the newest Zenkais are just okay. They're just whatever. They're semi-usable, but that's it. And again, that's what they want. Should we get level 2? Let me know.